All right, welcome back to Alabama Tractor Pickers. So what we're doing is I've got an old pedal tractor. It's an Ertl pedal tractor made by Ertl Toys, and it is a Ertl model 404, which is an IH casting. It looks like an IH tractor. Could be either an 84 series or an 86 series, depending on which decal sets on it or which one you want to put on it. Bought this pedal tractor about 5 years ago at an auction. It was all together and it was working. It was just original, old, and needed new paint, needed restoring. So I've taken it apart today and I'm about to put it in the blast cabinet. We're gonna get this thing cleaned up. I've got a list of new parts I'm gonna put on it. Even though the chain was good, I'm gonna go ahead and replace it. That way we don't have any kinks. Everything's new and tight. I'm gonna go ahead and replace the pedals because the pedals were a little chewed up, not too bad. But I can get all of the original looking parts for it. We're gonna replace the rear tires. The rear tires are actually supposed to be rubber with a metal rim. One of mine is rusted through and the tires are in bad shape. So we're gonna replace those parts and then restore the rest of it. We're gonna go back with an 86 series style decal that is on it. So here's what we've got going on so far. Okay, so we got these parts out of the cabinet. They've been blasted, look really good. These are like cast aluminum. They cleaned up really nice. I really don't need to shoot any primer on those, being that they're cast aluminum. I've got them hanging here. I don't know if I will or not, but don't have to. This chain guard is just it's steel or tin. Real thin metal, and I want to point out it has a lot of pitting and does have a little bit of rust through. You know, you can see a little bit of daylight, but it's the chain guard. It's up underneath. You're not gonna really notice it. That's the inside of it too. But I went ahead and blasted it roughly on the inside just to knock the scale off. And I'm gonna go ahead and prime everything. And if you'll notice, it's a little warped. And while I was blasting it, I actually pulled it back apart because as I blasted each side, it folded it in each side. I wasn't real rough on it. It's just the heat and the constant abrasion of the glass beads heats it up and it warps it. So this should be a lesson in which no one recommends you would sandblast sheet metal for like a hood, a door skin on a car, a hood on a tractor, a hood on a car, anything, any kind of sheet metal where it's thin metal. You don't want to sandblast it because it will warp and deform it and ruin it. This being a chain guard, it's not ruined. I can straighten it out really easily and fit it to the body. Once I get it, the body here, we can go ahead and fit it back, bend it back where it needs to be, and then we're good. I'm just going to throw a little bit of gray primer on it so it doesn't flash rust. Then I can put some JB Weld and kind of smooth it out like body filler just to clean it up and dress it up some. So we'll do that, throw some shop primer on it tonight. The rear axle with the sprocket is in good shape. Has a little bit of pitting, but again, it doesn't matter. It's all concealed. Once I prime this and then end up going back over it with filler primer, it'll be perfectly fine. I made sure to sandblast the sprocket really well. So I've got it hanging here. I didn't touch anything with my bare fingers. I went ahead and used my wire to pick it up. That's why those are hanging too. That way we don't get the oil contamination off our fingers when we try to paint. So let's get this stuff primed, let it dry overnight, and then we'll go to step 2. So we're back on the pedal tractor, and we've got a few parts here for the Farmall 140 right back there in the background. I painted that 140 about 4 years ago in the shop and got it painted and painted a few parts, but didn't get to paint all the parts, and kind of left it because I moved up to where I am now. So I recently went back and got it, threw the wheels on. I had painted those rims back then, but didn't get the centers painted, but I just threw the wheels on and rolled it up on the trailer, got all the parts that I thought was there and brought them back with me. Did a little bit of body work on that front end. It's not perfect, but it's a lot better than it was. So we're gonna get those painted, those pieces, the hood and the nose piece. And I've got to still paint the fenders and some miscellaneous parts. I may do that on another time. It's just hard to get everything ready to go because it's just drawn out so long. So when I paint the pedal tractor parts, we'll get those 2 pieces painted at minimum for that tractor. So here are my pedal tractor parts I've blasted. I've got them hanging ready to paint them. There's your axle housings. There's the steering shaft and front axle. There's the chain guard plate, the chain sprocket for the rear, and then another piece there. I think that's your steering shaft. So I've got all these parts hanging. I'm about to blow them off And then I'm going to spray them down with some wax and grease remover, which I've got here in this sprayer. Wax and grease remover, wipe them down, they should be ready to paint. Now they may sit here a day or two, they may sit here a week, but at least they'll be sprayed down. If I have to spray them down again, that's a quick, easy job. Once they're hanging, that's all that matters. So get all that wiped down, but first, we got some parts that we ordered, and I got these parts from Dakota Toys. You can look them up on the internet. So I want to go through these parts and see if there's anything that we will need to paint. Some nice new wheels for the rear. Thought about painting those just so everything matches. Anything. All right, so right off the bat, we've got a part that will need to be painted, and I'm actually going to prime it. In the meantime, that's our new pedal sprocket assembly with the upgraded bearings. Okay, got some parts in here. Oh, got our nice decal set. Let's sit it out. Oops. And there's our last rear tire and wheel. We should have some new pedals. Original style. Yep, there they are. Got Ertl on them. Very nice. Could paint those. I'm going to paint the steering wheel and the seat. I'm going to paint those a gloss black. Aha. Rear hubcaps. Yep. Got a hardware kit. Wheel caps for the front. New chain. And new nuts, bolts to go back together. Original style hardware. I'm gonna set all that in there. Looks like all I'm gonna need to do is take this apart, and then we'll get it primed so we can paint it when we paint everything. I'm working on these new wheels and tires that I got for the pedal tractor. While they look really nice, I want to make sure that the metal rims here match the paint job I'm putting on it so they don't stick out and be a different shade of red. So what I'm going to do is take this piece of red Scotch-Brite. Probably don't need something that aggressive, but that's all I got. I'm going to take that piece and I'm just going to scuff it lightly. Not even bear down real hard. I'm going to scuff it up good on both sides. And then after that, I'll wipe it off. Then I'm going to take this masking tape and I'm going to mask these new rubber tires here because the tires look fine. So I'm going to mask all of that and then we'll be ready to paint. So all that's needed for this is just to lightly scuff it, and then when we get ready to paint, I'll wipe it off with wax and grease remover. Okay, so one side scuffed. The other side's not scuffed. See the difference? All right, here's our completed wheel. Scuffed, wiped off, and taped off. Trick is when taping off a wheel like this with tape, use real short, small pieces. You go around the wheel a lot faster than trying to bend it. Then after I got it on there, I took my fingernail, or you can take a razor blade and go around the edge of the rim. So that one's ready to go. We got one more to do. This took me, I guess, real close to an hour. Well, welcome back, guys. It's another night, and we're ready to shoot some primer. I've got an old can of some 2K primer that I had my mixing mate on. This makes a world of difference when trying to pour paint, and you can also stir it up while it's sitting on the shelf or before you use it. You've probably seen me use it in my other videos. What I want to do now, since I'm using this high solids primer, stuff is pretty heavy. Had it shook today, and this is a direct to metal high solids primer. Really heavy stuff. So to help pour this stuff, I'm going to use this. Let's see. And in doing that, we're going to have to clean that off the best we can. It needs to be cleaned. I don't want to put the epoxy primer in that and potentially contaminate it. I don't know if I'm going to worry about the lid as much, but especially this and the spout. So let me find something to clean this. Got some lacquer thinner, and then we're going to get that done, and then we'll be ready to prime. Okay, so I scrapped the idea of using the mix and mate lid. Even though this is extremely heavy, it's going to make a mess. I already know it is. It needs to be cleaned, and I need to soak it in some lacquer thinner and have time to actually scrub the paint off of it and clean it. So we're not using that. We'll clean that. In the meantime, I'm just going to have to grab it and pour. You know, we got a piece of cardboard here, and I got a rag, but it's going to make a mess. This, like I said, is a direct to metal high solids primer. I wanted this so I could put 2 to 3 coats on it, and I could actually sand it down. It would fill the pits in that aluminum or whatever it is, pot metal. It'd fill the pits in it, any imperfections, and I could sand it. I'm gonna sand it, I think 220 and then probably 320, something like that, and then I'll shoot my color. But I wanted to use that high build, and it mixes 4-to-1 with the activator, and this is a medium activator. We're at like 70, 72 degrees right now. It mixes 4-to-1 with the activator. It says give it 1 to 2 wet coats, 15 minutes between the coats. It's real important. I don't have that many parts this time. I have the 2 main body panels of the pedal tractor, and I've got some miscellaneous parts. I also have 2 tractor fenders. I was able to get sandblasted tonight before I came out to paint this. The guys sandblasted them for me out back. I just brought them in and wiped them down with some wax and grease remover. So I've got 2 fenders to prime, and I've got the 140 nose piece and the 140 hood. So really, I don't have that much to prime. I may end up making 2 cups or 2 batches, I would think at the most. So 15 minutes in between coats, I'm gonna have to stand around and wait. It's not like I could go through all my pieces and then turn around and go again. So we're gonna have to be mindful of the 15 minutes in between coats. So, and then it says 30 minutes at 140 degrees if we were gonna bake it. 3 to 4 hours at 68 degrees. So say we're at 68 to 72 now, it'd be ready to sand in 3 to 4 hours. I'm gonna give it about 2 days at minimum, 2 to 3 days. So I just wanna make sure it's done. I've got my paint gun. I ran some lacquer thinner through it. I'm letting that cup dry. It seemed to be working fine until we put the primer in it. We don't know how it's gonna atomize and shoot. I did set the pressure at about 35 PSI. We'll go from there. The gun has a max at 45, so we'll go from there and see how that does. So these are only 2 parts we need for this. Got a mixing cup, 4-to-1. Got my strainers. It's gonna probably clog the strainer pretty quickly. Got several here. And all we need is me to put on some gloves. We've got this fancy paint suit right here, disposable paint suit. Never used one, but you know, the guys out back gave me one, and well, why not? it helps save getting it all over my arms, my clothes, and you know, helps save on the washing machine, my truck. You shower? Well, I'm gonna still shower. But yeah, so I'm gonna give this thing a shot. Let me get into this and we'll be ready to mix up and go. Next morning, so here's our parts primed with about 3 coats of primer. Just wanted to come and check them out before I went to work. Looks good. Everything went on straight and smooth. Remember, it's a high build primer, so it's really thick. It's a high solids primer. But I plan to sand this stuff. And as you can see, it's going to be hand sanded. I may use like a paint stick with sandpaper stuck to it, or maybe a small sanding block with paper on it, but just going to have to be careful. And I did shoot the back of these parts, as you probably saw, just because I want everything to be uniform when I paint it, even though you don't have to shoot the inside, and they didn't from the factory. But I wanted to make sure all the edges are uniform and everything. So. Now these parts here, like this front axle, steering shaft, I may just sand here and what will be exposed. Rest of it's not going to matter. It's been 3-4 days this primer has sat here, and we had put 3 coats on all of this Monday, and today's Friday, so Friday morning. What I'm going to do is I've got some sandpaper here, and you may, have your opinions, but it's what I got. This is the adhesive back sandpaper. This is 220. This is 320. I've got a little air sander, a DA, that adhesive back, it fits on it. But since I've got so much of this stuff, why not just use it on my sanding block or on a stick for corners, or just by hand? That's what I'm gonna do. So I wanna sand this 220 grit, and I'm gonna go back and sand it 320 grit. No rhyme or reason, I just feel like that's what I need to do. Not professional, so I don't know. You can comment, but I'm gonna do 220, then 320, and then I thought that should be good enough for me to take and shoot the red paint.
So I've got this piece, got the two fenders, I've got the hood, and then I've got the pedal tractor parts to do. Shouldn't be too bad. All right, now that we've got that fender bondoed for the Farmall 140, I'm going to go ahead and sand the parts to the pedal tractor. There's a couple of steering shafts and one axle, I think it was. I hand sanded those off camera, but all I've got to sand on this are the two main halves of the pedal tractor body and the two rear axle housings. So should be pretty straightforward. I've got some 220 right here, some adhesive 220. I'm just going to fold it in half like so, and then we're just going to sand this lightly. Once we get it sanded with the 220, I'm going to go back over it with 320 or 380, whichever I have, and then after that, then we'll paint it. So like I said before, I do have a tack cloth for when I get ready to paint it. And when I wipe it down, I'm gonna use those shop towels made by Scott. They're blue, you know, they're fabric and they will pull some, but I've been told by several body guys, they pull the least, and then I can use that tack cloth behind that. So I think that we will be just fine. These little parts like this, I'm not gonna try to worry about how I sand them. Just trying to do it by hand and best I can. Unlike a car, painting tractors or pedal tractors or anything like that, there's so many nooks and crannies, and there's nothing that's very consistent like on a vehicle. So it's hard to use a block sander or a, you know, a wide sanding block or anything like that. So a lot of it's by hand, and you just have to do your best you can and by feel. So anyway, we can get all this sanded out and get this behind us. So I've laid it on its other side. No, I'm not going to sand the inside. I did prime it though, unlike they did at the factory. That way when I paint it, I'm going to paint both sides. And when it's together, you shouldn't see any kind of overspray marks or gaps or anything like that that are unfinished. But what I want to do is I want to hit this with some sandpaper on the edges that mate, just so they're smoothed down, scuffed up. That way it all goes together easily. Again, this is some kind of pot metal or aluminum, so I'm not worried about it rusting or anything like that. I just want it to be ready to go together. Shop all good and dusty. We've got all our pedal tractor parts sanded like we want them with 220. I've got all the tractor parts over here sanded like I want them with 220. So while these are here, I'm gonna go ahead and step these up and finish these on out with a 320 and sand these pieces. They'll be ready for paint once I sand these and hang them back up. The fender over there, I put the body filler on. I'm gonna go ahead and leave it overnight, sand it tomorrow or the next day. But the other three pieces, I can go ahead and sand those as well. Shouldn't take us long, just nothing to do it, but get to it. So, all right, let's go. All clean with the wax and grease remover, and I was wanting to show you, here's my acrylic enamel I had mixed up, International Red 2150. Haven't checked it as far as match, looks eyeballs close enough. So there's my acrylic enamel. Here's the mixing mate like I like to use. I went ahead and bought a new one rather than clean that old one up. Just $23. But it's really handy because you've got the pour spout, makes it mess free. You can actually feather your pour if you're mixing it by weight or anything. And then you got the paddle that will stir it. This one's set up for a machine. It's got a gear on it. All I do is pop the gear off, chuck that shaft in my drill, and away you go. So that's going to be really handy, and I just leave it in there until I finish the can. And then what I've learned is I need to just go ahead and swap it over to a new can, or just clean it and put it on the shelf. So I'll clean the old one later. Anyway, let's go ahead and get that on. We can toss that lid. Don't need that. Don't see any runs. I had one small run on the pedal tractor earlier right there, and I smeared it with my hand to try and correct it. But I don't see any other runs. I think the kids are just gonna love this. And I just hope it lasts for a long time. So maybe they can pass it down one day. Yeah, I think it looks really good. And I even painted the back side. There's the 140 hood and nose. Looks real good. So we're gonna let this sit in here and dry out and level out. We'll come back to it in a day or two and we'll check on it, and maybe even this evening. I usually can't wait to look at it. So.
It's sticking on me.
Did you get it all finished, Matthew?
Yep.
That wheel and tire sure does look good, buddy.
Thank you. Daddy, can I please keep it?
Maybe so. We'll see.
Daddy, at my house?
I don't know. Let's leave it here for now, okay? It's been just a little over 2 days, about 52 hours since the paint has been laid down. I think it turned out really well. Got a good finish. A little bit of orange peel, not bad. And it's gonna be a working tractor. Real slick. It's hardening it up every day. It won't be fully hard, I don't know, a week or two probably. But this one got a little scratch on the hub there. Matthew went ahead and took the tape off of it. Wanted to see it. That looks really good. Glad we painted those so they'll match. I bet I can buff those scratches out. Did you fix it?
Yeah.
Good. What do you think?
I love the tape because it has 2 bridges.
Oh yeah. What do you think about the red paint?
I love it.
Good.
Because
Good.
It's so shiny.
Yeah, it is. Well, all right.
Shiny stuff.
We'll say thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching.
Yeah, all kinds.